be quiet as hell because I'm supposed to sleep in my very soon. I'm like sleeping. I'm supposed to wake up very early tomorrow. I'm supposed to leave somewhere like far away for like a month, right? And my mom's kind of work. Actually, she kind of does know, but we can leave it for a bit. It's a long documentary. I'm trying to be quiet if I can. Right? Let's get right into it. Documentary called The Fandom by Ash Coyote. I don't know her real name, but that's her screen name, Ash Coyote. Furry. Reacting to a furry documentary. Furry connection kind of going on the side of me that I don't usually talk about on stream that much. And when I stream otherwise, I hope you guys like it. I'm blind. I'm just getting into it because I really don't have much time. Let me know how the audio levels are. Hopefully they're okay. Let me know if there's an issue. I can't really test it that much, the audio. But I did a little bit. Jesus. Pretty risky for me to be doing this right now. But let's do it. Let me know how the audio is. Audio real quick right now. Jesus Christ. Good thing I tested the audio. Yeah. Thanks guys for being patient. Sorry. The audio was not quite up to snuff like I was hoping it would be. Actually, I'm chilling. All I gotta do is eat my mic. Not gonna lie. We should be chilling. This is gonna be pretty quiet though. Sorry about that. There's really not much I can do. I have like no time. Like this is bad. If it's too quiet, just turn me up. I can try to eat the mic and shit like that, but shit. Oh my god. Okay, full screen, full screen. Oh no, let me turn that off. That thing in the corner. Let's get rid of that.
There's this.
Let me check if my door is closed. I'm not gonna lie. Alright, we're chilling. Let's go.
This weird thing that humans do. There's this weird thing that humans do. We take animals and we put our words into their mouths to talk back to us, usually about us.
Okay, wow, dang. They're going into like, it is not playing on stream. Literally is not. That's really good to know. I'm really glad you told me that right away. That was really good. That was really clutch. That was insane. Alright, let's figure this out then. Okay. Oh, that's weird. Oh, due to full screen? Oh, okay. Let me test that.
And we put our words into their mouths.
Is this really what I have to do? Yeah, that worked. That's so stupid. Oh my god. Okay. You know what? We're gonna make this work. We're gonna do this. I'm gonna make it easier for you guys. And crop it so you don't see that shit. Trying to figure out the sweet spot here. Should be fine. Thank you for letting me know. That was really fun. Actually, just a little more about the crop. Sure. There we go. Thanks for letting me know. That was super clutch.
talk back to.
How are you gonna watch it?
There's this weird thing that humans do. We take animals and we put our words into their mouths to talk back to us. Usually
Talk that much over it, but
about us.
cool. I think they're probably going to like the origins of literally anthropomorphic animals in general, which is really cool for like super naive people. That's good.
It's a very strange thing, but we've done it.
I knew this documentary was gonna be like big. I remember like checking this out while it was in production a few years ago. I knew about this documentary for years. It was in production for years. I'm just that involved in the furry fandom, but more than I think I make it look. But yeah, it's great that it's finally out. It looks great so far.
Centuries. We learn to read from anthropomorphic animals. We learn right from wrong from anthropomorphic animals, but most people don't notice it.
I'm trying to get a look at
Furry fans are the people who.
I'm trying to take a look at that fucking that. Dang, this is cool. Very concise, cool intro. It talks about like I think a factor for why as many people are furries as they are. I think there's just a lot of anthropomorphic animals in children's media. I feel like the exposure is there for sure, but out of like the hundreds of thousands or millions of people, or like a billion, 2 billion people, maybe like 1 billion people that have been really exposed to anthropomorphic animals, like from like Disney, like Pokemon or some shit. I don't fucking know. All kinds of shit. I'm really fewer than most furries, and I wonder what separates it for us and normal.
Notice.
Look at these. There's not that many suitors. I thought there'd be more suitors, dude. I see some pretty, very pretty suitors. When I mean suitor, I mean head. Right here.
Furry fans are the people who notice that we do this.
Yo, look at these suitors. Holy shit. So great to see these.
And think that there's something really special.
Oh my god, I love. Oh my god. These suits are so good. Oh yeah, by the way, fair warning. Fair warning. Any rivals, people from rivals. Yeah. I think I'm more passionate about furry shit than I think I'm taught. Than I think I make clear. So if you're not into that, if you're not cool with me just um talking about me as a furry in relation to this documentary and all that, then
Notice that we do this.
I guess I should actually watch
and
more.
think that there's something really special about that.
Well, like the dictionary
I'm so proud that they're expressing themselves so freely. Suit might help.
definition
Looks like they have the suit, they dance. This is like the time of their life, like that. I bet they
you
feel
get is
great
like
right now.
furry.
We got a person. We got
Well, like the dictionary definition you get is like furry is a community of people that enjoy anthropomorphic art, right? I feel like it's way more than that.
you that created. I guess there's probably like
It's a
look at all these people. Oh my god.
social space that is largely queer.
This is true. This is like dead ass true. I think like half of furries are LGBT or more.
And gravitates around using art as the vehicle to explore identity.
That is true. Well, I'm not gonna speak for everyone, but it's definitely I think of it like an art, like a way to express yourself. Yeah. Even though I don't even draw, but I designed my own Fursona, and I have one drawing. I drew one drawing of her, but the rest of the art is stuff I commissioned other people. So you don't even need to draw. You don't need to be good at drawing. You don't need to be good at character design. to be able to partake in this art, which I think is really cool. You paid like $20 to commission someone to draw if you don't want to do it.
I sucked at drawing people, so I would draw animals and everything.
I sort of anthropomorphized my own dog in a lot of my drawings, stuff like that.
I was
Such a character shit. I wish I could get the rape monitor working, but I couldn't get it working, so I'm like, whatever the fuck. Like, I don't have much time, dude.
a part of a Lion King art archive online, and was a part of a Lion King art archive online, and everybody role plays as lions, and I remembered.
Thanks for watching, guys, by the way. I'm happy you're interested in me or the documentary. Probably not going to talk as much, because I'm sure you guys want to actually watch.
Thinking, guys, the lions are great, but what if we were wolves? And they're like, ew, furry. And I was like, furry?
What, man? I was like, did they do furry shit without knowing they were furry? What the fuck? Huh? That must have been some discovery. Jesus fuck. Also, look at the heads, bro.
Had my first
They're very realistic.
word to get to this feeling that I had.
Yeah, I did your shirt.
I was initially into cosplay. I'd cosplay a lot of anime characters.
I'm not alone. There are other people out there that are into this. I didn't
The
come.
DDR in the suit looks like actual hell. Can't see anything. Actually, you can see the screen, the lowest screen, but you're gonna be extremely sweaty.
Out
Sweatier than any DDR tryhard out there.
fully because furry was taboo back then.
They got the this thing? The fucking landing thing? That's dope.
Something weird, something odd.
I want one. I want one like that. But I'll be in like 10 seconds. Just literally 10 seconds. What? I'm definitely gonna just watch more and talk less. We're like not gonna get through this at all. Holy shit.
It doesn't help that media never really
I'm only
had
gonna
a
talk when I feel
positive
like
point of view.
big. I feel strongly about
Something
something,
odd.
you know?
It doesn't help that media never really had a positive point of view on it to begin with.
That is true. The media and the mainstream culture, I think, misunderstands furries completely. I think a lot of people view it as like a sexual thing, or I don't fucking know. They generalize and like pair it up with like weird people or whatever the fuck. And I guess you can call it weird. Like if this isn't weird, I don't know what the fuck is. But I think that was worth it, right, Pluto? Was it worth it? I got you. But it's not inherently sexual. I think it's pretty sexually charged, which is pretty interesting. I think it's kind of weird. I don't know why it's like that, to be honest. I think it's because being a furry is like a way to express yourself for like I think it's a community where people feel more free to express themselves and their honest feelings, no sugarcoating or anything. And I guess because of that kind of culture, I guess that's why it's more sexually charged than like anything ever, honestly. I feel like 1 in like 5 or 6 furry art is literally sexual. And because I feel like people feel more free to express themselves, that's also why I feel like furries have like this overlap with like weird fetishes that you see nowhere else. How do I know this? I just know, dude. I'm really involved in furry shit.
But I'm always
So maybe they'll talk about that, on why there's this weird overlap between LGBT people with weird fetishes, and like, I guess just honestly a lot of socially inept people, like people that are uncomfortable to talk to.
grateful for the friends.
I mean, it is like being a furry. I feel like at least having a Sona and especially being in a suit, I feel like bypasses a lot of like social skills. Like, you don't have to make eye contact, you don't have to talk or anything. So I guess that's a appeal for people like me. I mean, I think that's a big reason why um there's a lot of overlap with trans people in particular, especially in a suit, because you don't have to talk, you don't have to. You're in a suit, you literally look completely different. I think it's just a way to bypass a lot of social cues and barriers of the physical realm to be yourself,
that I've
which I think is cool.
made and the people
Which I think appeals to a lot of
that
different
I've met along the
demographics.
way. But
Also, I
I'm
love that
always
thing, by the way,
grateful for the friends that I've made and the people that I've met along
that blue one.
the way. It's just a fundamental part of who I am.
So I'm not super familiar with the history of the fandom. I know
I'm not either. I know that there are furries like fucking before the internet, and I'm like, how the fuck do you survive as a furry before the internet? Like, what do you tell people? It's like, yo, I like Robin Hood, but I like Robin Hood a lot. I wish I was Robin Hood. Like, what the fuck? I feel like it's hard to connect with other people. But as a result, I feel like maybe the stigma isn't as widespread because not as many people knew about furries back then. So that's pretty interesting.
I think it originated out of a sci-fi convention in the 80s, and I want to say probably California.
Yep, it was California. Dude, did it produce like wild? Is this like the first furry? First furry?
I was already known as the science fiction geek of the family, the movie geek, and the Disney geek. I've been all of these things since I was a kid.
I've been interested in science fiction fandom since the 1970s when I went to my first Star Trek convention. I was a Navy brat.
Dang. Like, imagine connecting with a niche interest before the internet. Like, sometimes I wonder if I existed before the internet, I think I literally would have killed myself by now. Just straight up. Because I already wanted to do that a few years ago. I feel much better now, so like, I think a big reason why what got me through is I was able to find, places where I felt like I could fit in, thanks to the internet, but like, doing that before the internet? Like, what the fuck? Dang. I'm proud of that.
Our family would go to the movie theater at the Air Navy base in St. Louis and go to the movie theater at the Air Navy base in St. Louis and watch films.
One of the first times I've ever been to a theater, my
So, these two, like, furries in the making, are they gonna cross over?
dad hated them. He much preferred drive-ins, but somehow we talked him into going to a sit-down theater to see
Sorry guys, if that's gross. My nose is kinda itchy. I'm not picking my nose or anything. Don't worry.
Robin Hood.
I was right.
Somehow we talked him into going to a sit-down theater to see Robin Hood.
This thing I'm drinking is like, to my throat because I have kind of a sore throat, but I'm like, fuck it, I want to do this anyway because I don't know if you guys know, but tomorrow I'm literally not gonna be here for anywhere from several days to several weeks. So I'm trying to make the most of it. I've been dealing with the sore throat all day, but I've been trying to make it work.
And I would fuss and cry and squirm, always, except in the movie Bambi.
You guys think this is really cheesy, really corny? It's okay, me too. We're in it together.
I was immediately hooked. I was into.
But that's so weird that I mean, I'm not gonna say like what the fuck, but it's really interesting that they knew they were into this like frame one. But I only figured I was like really into anthropomorphic animals after years of getting exposed to this stuff. So this is really interesting.
That cartoon.
I think I was a huge risk factor for being a furry. I was really into watching footnotes, which are basically, think of crude short animations, and a lot of people just did like animated furry shit. And then there's Pokemon and like Animal Crossing. And then My Little Pony came around, and that was the final nail in the coffin. I was like, dang, I love all these things, dude. I like animals, bro. Anthropomorphic animals, bro. And then I was like, some point along the way, I don't know when, I found out what a furry was, and I'm like, honestly, my first interaction, like my first like deliberate dive into furry art, it makes me uncomfortable to talk about. I might not, but yeah, it was a huge awakening in several ways. I may or may not open up about it because it makes me pretty uncomfortable. Well, you know what? That makes it look like it was like something crazy happened, like something sus or something bad happened. But no. But like, let's just say, in my first like, I don't know, not the first exposure, but my first deliberate like dive, like I said, into the furry art, I saw some sexually charged stuff, and it made me feel really weird. And I'm like, yeah, I think that had a very lasting impact on me, for better or worse.
Into that cartoon.
Am I gonna get demonetized for that? Am I gonna get DMCA'd? I mean, taken down for saying that? Maybe, I don't know.
I just loved animation, what it looked like, and also how it was done.
I'm into it in a way that my school friends aren't. I'm into it in a way that my parents aren't. So what
That's a very concise way of putting it.
do I
Feel the same way with
do? I was looking for fandom. A bunch of people getting together and geeking out with each other about media.
We traveled across the country.
How's the audio, by the way? I guess the audio doesn't matter too much because it's not like I talk over this stuff much. I'm gonna turn it up just in case, just a little bit. Thanks guys for watching. Thanks guys for sticking through. I'm sorry. I feel like I'm talking too much. So I'll tone it down a little bit, especially because we're not through this shit at all.
And ended up.
But you know, I think my own input is pretty valuable. As a furry, I feel.
Moving to California in 1958.
I live
in California.
How old is this guy? Do not understand that side of the fandom. The science of fetishes in general, I think, is pretty fascinating. I'm not gonna get into it. I'm just getting off topic. I'm just like trying to only talk about stuff that's like really important. Pretty interesting though. Yeah, I think there's multiple, at least like maybe like 2 explanations for why people can even be attracted to anthropomorphic animals in a sexual way. Outside of zoophilia, like that's a completely different ballpark, by the way, just so you guys know, just clear misconceptions. If you're into anthropomorphic animals, that doesn't mean that you're into fucking your actual dog. It's 2 very different things. Because the anthropomorphic animal is much more human than they are an actual dog in regards to intelligence and like design and shit like that. So don't worry. If you know someone that is that's sexually attracted to anthropomorphic animals, they're probably not into fucking their real dog, alright? So don't worry
In
about
1958.
I live in Southern California, close to Hollywood, the media capital of the world, or at least it was at the time.
Background places, please. I might have to get my fidget cube out. A little uneasy. I'm doing nothing. Oh, do you guys like my Orcane shirt? Let's go, ride with the beat. Let's go. You guys can't really see it. There you go. Sort of, whatever. You guys can't see it at all, actually, but I'm just gonna get back into it.
Oh, it's lovely.
Turn around, let's see your back.
Oh, this is some big section. Oh, it's maybe like the...
LostCon 1980, the local Southern California science fiction convention.
Crazy. I guess it's like, supposedly, furry's origin of science fiction. They're really going way deep in the history side, which is good. I'm glad that they touched up on this, because, like,
that was the first convention that I had ever been to that had an art show, and it was beautiful. A lot of it was princesses in flowing gowns, star fields that you'd see on the side of someone's van. And a lot of it was just absolutely amazing. But then here are these pictures of these.
Yo, look at those, like, are those butterfly antennas? You see that shit? That's my Fursona too. Also has butterfly antennas. Like 50 years before me. What the hell? That's crazy. You can maybe tell on my profile picture that there's antennas. Maybe. If you look closely enough, there's antennas. It's cut off, but it's there.
Semi-anthropomorphic weasel characters with antennas like bugs.
I was kind of weird, not gonna lie.
A friend of mine in school said, Rodney, you gotta see these, because they knew I wouldn't shut up about my enjoyment of muscular characters. In school, I was considered very weird for that. So I asked them at the art
Trendsetter. What a legend.
show, who does this?
This is like the first furry. That's like, I mean, of course not, but like, my man's really setting the foundation. My man dared to be different. I love that.
So I asked them at the art show, who does this art?
I had a video room at LostCon 7 showing some anime, some science fiction TV shows. And this tall guy comes up and goes,
why do your pine martens have antennas?
oh my, this person recognizes the kind of animals I'm drawing. Most people thought they were cats. And I said, well, sit down and I'll explain it to you.
God, he's so old. He's like the first furry. Holy fucking shit. Does make sense to be attracted to human-like animals because they look human. But why incorporate fetishes? Ask the fetishist. I don't know. Because they're into it. I don't know. Fetishes happen. It's hard. I feel like it's hard to understand unless you have one. But I could try to explain it, but I don't think I want to do that. I don't like telling them that kind of stuff. Most of the time, pretty uncomfortable. Not gonna lie. But it's just they're into it. It's a common interest. How do fetishes happen? There's a lot of different ways. I could get into the topic. It's not on topic.
We loved Japanese animation, and nobody knew about it except for the few shows we were getting seen with subtitles.
This is the city, Inglewood, California.
You see that clicking and flashing of my fidget cube? Because, you know, I'm that person. Get out.
Where the Los Angeles chapter of the Cartoon Fantasy Organization meets. This chapter is the first chapter in the club and has been meeting here for 5 years. The cartoon. This is
I like hiking this, missed it, not gonna lie.
where the Inglewood,
Pretty distracted.
California. This is where the Los Angeles chapter of the Cartoon Fantasy Organization meets. This chapter is the first chapter in the club and has been meeting here for 5 years.
In 1977, myself and four
That same one in my house.
other people, some of whom were animators in the business, actually TV animators. We decided more people should see this stuff and started a club. And it was the first anime club.
The very first anime fan club in America.
But a lot of the people that came to the meetings were also into animal characters.
Dude, imagine being like the first people to see this shit. Like, everyone must feel like a complete outsider, like a complete loner. Dang, no one else likes animals like animals than me.
Which is why
I'm saying, like, the internet is a beautiful thing.
the mascot of the club became one of my skill tier.
It's a little cut off. Like, straight up. Okay, this will have to do. I'm gonna crop it a little bit, just for you guys, a little bit. Just a bit. In the bottom. There we go. I got you guys, I got you.
Which are sort of an alien mammal based on weasels.
Sorry guys. Not fixing that.
Rodney would come to the screenings and we'd hang out and talk, and we saw each other more and more and more after that.
Oh wow.
Here were two people who came from very different backgrounds, but we were paralleling each other amazingly on interests and passions, movies, animation, novels.
Yeah, that's what's really cool about the furry fandom, is that there's a lot of overlap between, thanks for the bits by the way, that's valuable for small streamers like me. I'll eat up every single one. Geez, I wonder how Twitch payouts work, honestly. Thanks though. I'm affiliate at least, like I've gotta do something. So what's cool, it's gonna be quick, but what's really dope is that there's a lot of overlap between, I have no money either, straight up. Like I'm I'm such a penny pincher. There's a lot of overlap between, I'm so bad at describing this. There's a lot of, demographics that cross over into the furry fandom. You got people that just like art, or like music or writing, but it doesn't even have to end at art. There's a lot of like furry, like technology geeks, like people that like to code and like fucking like planes and shit, and definitely planes in particular, but like vehicles. There's a lot of overlap between all kinds of hobbies that cross over into the furry fandom. It's pretty interesting. So it doesn't just appeal to like art people or whoever, animation people or whatever, fantasy, but a lot of people. Pretty dope.
Comics.
Esports, like me. Like other than being furry, my biggest passion is esports. You know?
And
I somehow didn't mention
a few years later, we decided to become a couple.
This is like in the fucking 80s or some shit. A lot of stigma. But like they got each other. They're like the only two furries in the whole universe. They got each other. That's so cool. I'm fucking embarrassing myself right now.
Rod and Mark are effectively the grandparents of the furry fandom. I consider them the parents of the furry fandom, but I've also been in the furry fandom for 20 years at this point.
Yo, did I don't think there's notifications from my phone. I don't think they're showing up on screen, so I'm just gonna turn them off just in case. Yeah, I just don't want to see them. Okay. Alright.
The Prancing Skilterra household is like a museum and library of furry things. They had figurines all over the place. They had bookcases and bookshelves of furry comics, of anime comics.
I have to keep it quiet. Not gonna lie. Not gonna lie.
Comics of sci-fi.
So this is San Diego Comic-Con one year. This is Don Bluth and Douglas Adams.
Dang, Comic-Con has been around for a long time now.
Remember they had the live action
Muppet Show.
Can't hear shit, guys. I'm sorry. I need to turn this up. I bet you guys super can't hear shit then. There you go.
There was lots and lots and lots of science fiction conventions. We saw the birth of the comic book shop.
In the 70s, it was a time when the comics code was still heavily enforced, and so comic books all had to be black and white, good and evil, superhero comics, basically. But there were these groups of artists who were just chomping at the bit to do something different, to do something not superheroes, to do something funny animal.
Funny animal does not mean animals that are funny. It means animals that...
By the way, guys, thanks for watching. Happy you guys are interested in watching the stream. I'm providing something other than that, that makes you not just go watch the documentary itself, Happy for that.
Are in the funnies.
A lot of people think funny animal and think that it all has to go to kids, but a lot of it was being consumed by adults as well, especially in the underground comic scene.
Their sense of mischief, their sense of uninhibitedness. I was sort of in a family where I don't think there was a lot of elbow room for my exuberance, my imagination, and I think I projected a lot of that into these stories, into these characters, and I think a good deal of identification developed from that.
Funny.
I feel that. I don't know how to describe it, but like I said, I feel like like attaching myself to the furry universe or a furry character, like Fursona in particular. I feel like it helps to enable me to express myself in ways that I wouldn't normally, and helps be with like-minded people in that regard, other furries and shit like that. Pretty dope.
Funny animal comics used to be very popular before superheroes took off.
And they had their own fandom. It was very spread and had a lot of difficulty talking to each other in the old pre-internet days.
Now they've been lost to obscurity.
I said this before, I'm not going to get into it again. But just imagine having a super niche interest with no internet. That's all I'm saying. Without no centralized way to connect people. That's right there.
The fandom.
Are they gonna get into the sexual cult? I think they will. There's no way that they won't. It's such a big deal. And that's what the media likes to focus on a lot. Like mainstream people. It's like, well, furries are weird, they fucked all you or whatever. If they don't, it's different.
Started pretty much.
I think they own Fur Affinity or something. Some doctor. I think a doctor owns Fur Affinity.
Much that old folk tend to disagree on where exactly it began, but
I have Fur Affinity, by the way. If anyone wants to know, just whisper me or some shit. I'm not gonna drop it in here because curiosity killed the cat. All right, I got some weird favorites. I'm not trying to expose y'all to that.
the commonly accepted starting point was a painting done by the artist Steve Galacik. He had created a character,
By the way, I'm just gonna make the screen bigger. Oh, just kidding, I can't really do that. Never mind. Oops.
Furry character, a pilot in a futuristic starting point, was a painting done by the artist Steve Galacik. He had created a character, a furry character, a pilot in a futuristic spaceship. This piece was hanging up in an art show at an East Coast science fiction convention. Now, what you have to understand is that hadn't been done before. A furry, an anthropomorphic character, was limited to a coyote hitting the bottom of a cliff, standing up, dusting himself off, and going to the Acme catalog.
He also published one of the very first furry anthology comics, Albedo.
Steve had a whole world about these anthropomorphic animals in outer space and their politics and war between different groups. It really caught people's imaginations.
It was from discussion of his work that led to the very first furry party.
First furry artist, like, what's the inspiration here? Like, none? You have to make it yourself? Like, it's very bold.
Directly led to the very first furry party, actually, because they moved the discussion from in front of his art panel to a private room to continue the discussion.
It started out as gatherings of people in room parties.
Okay. I mean, I know who did this, Ash Coyote, or the producer or director, whoever the fuck, the big brain behind this thing. They did a really great job archiving this shit.
At science fiction conventions.
His fans would show up and he'd discuss this universe he'd created.
And that was the beginning. That was around 1980 or thereabout.
These room parties somehow got the name of Furry.
Furry. Right there. That's crazy. It's the first furry. I don't know what that says. Dude, I didn't know the term was that old. Holy shit. Oh my god. I thought that, like, furries as we knew it has only been around for, like, maybe, like, 20 years or some shit. I thought that before it was like, yeah, anthropomorphic animals existed. Yes, some people were into them, but there was no big centralized body. I didn't think it would be as, and I was true in that regard, but I didn't think it would be as developed as, like, people have a specific name to call them. Specific, whatever, furry. That's dope. That's crazy.
These room parties somehow got the name of furry parties.
The term furry had got around and stuck enough that when we had...
Actually charged already. Interesting.
The term furry had got around and stuck enough that when we had another party at WesterCon 1986 in San Diego, we decided to call it a furry party. All of these artists were amazed that there were other people out there drawing quote-unquote funny animals in the way that they did.
Dude, that's like, imagine being the first horny furry. Are you saying shit? They must feel extra weird. I'm proud of them for expressing themselves, I guess. When no one else did. That's cool. Good.
Someone would walk into our party, pull out a sketchbook and say, I was the only one I thought that was drawing this kind of stuff. And that just kept happening again and again.
They had this same revelation as I did. I'm not.
I felt amazing just going to a Splatoon. For anyone that doesn't know, before Rivals, I played Splatoon competitively. I've been to 2 majors in person. I felt insane. Just from that, but there's this, and it's smaller, so there's more incentive to actually connect with people and make long-lasting friendships because there's so few people, and like, especially because you didn't know anyone else that was into this stuff. I feel like even though they're complete strangers at that moment, maybe you could connect with them more than you could for like anyone else. That's crazy. Must be oh my god.
Not the only one. I always thought I was weird. I always thought no one else would understand. And here are people who are just like me.
I guess it's okay, we're chilling.
It was like a quest to find more people who liked the same thing we liked. And it became the most important thing in our lives.
I wanted to jump up on the Empire State Building and sing an aria about it. I thought we had stumbled across something just so cool.
Well, this is a classic Merlino. This is the Avant-Garde Gallery.
I'm gonna set a timer just so I at least know about passage of time. You know, because I'm gonna get really distracted here.
Downtown Santa Ana. It's part of their arts district. Mark and I have been hosting what we call the Art of Furry Fandom, where we gather furry artists together and have them put their stuff on display along with all of
Shit looks good. This beautiful dragon thing. Oh, there we go. Oh my god. Dude. Are there furries in this chat? If I just gush about furries, will you guys get it? Hope so. Anyway, this dragon's my dad.
have them put their stuff on display along with all of this quote-unquote regular art.
Hey, guys, for watching, by the way. I'm happy that you guys are interested in me or the documentary, especially if you're not a furry and this is maybe your first look into this kind of shit. I'm happy that you want to spend time with me in this kind of way.
Here was our art show and our sponsor lounge, a couple panel rooms here and a mini fursuit lounge. And then like here was our game room.
Just seeing this display makes me feel a certain way. It reminds me of a convention. And I felt great about those when I went to the two. I went to probably multiple conventions, multiple tournaments, but Smash and Splash 4, Smash and Splash 5 for competitive Splatoon. Shit hit different. I'm not even in Splatoon hall anymore, but.
Couple panel rooms here and a mini fursuit lounge. And then like here was our game room. Hi, I'm Bubbles. I'm 25. I'm the convention chair for 5 different furry conventions, including Denver.
One of the things I want to do for my career, I have a bunch of ideas for something I could kind of do on the side of like organized furry cons. Just shit out, or esports tournaments, or whatever, esports events, like, any, that's great. I'm gonna make sure I have that written down. I'll start watching again, like, literally 5 seconds, like, literally. Okay. Thanks, guys.
Here in Denver, Colorado. The hotel will give us this whole.
To look at. This is a convention center. Have any of you guys ever been to a convention? Especially one. Have you guys been to a convention where you really felt at home? They feel like you connected with the strangers more than most other people in your life? And there's a whole room full of them? You could walk for like 5 seconds, and then like, you'd walk by like 30 people that could be your next best friend? Shit is like nothing else.
Space, and we choose how we use it. A little meet and greet area, some board gaming, and then our big main events room.
Oh my fucking god. I need to go to a furry convention. Oh my god. It would hit so different. Holy fucking shit. I think I would feel more at home there than even a Rivals tournament. And I love Rivals. Oh my god. I identify more with being a Rivals player than a furry, but like, I feel like I feel more free to express myself and my feelings, honestly, in a furry space. Especially when I stream, there's definitely a side of me that I am suppressing in a way, and it's the furry side. I'm that on Twitter. Fur affinity is really where I go off on that regard. If anyone wants fur affinity link, I guess just type it. I'm not gonna paste it. You guys just might not want to see that. Like, that's okay. It's the Rivals audience, fur affinity audience. There's a little overlap. You'll have to be about being a furry. You know how passionate, you know how much money this shit costs? Like hundreds or thousands.
We have had hotels that are like, so I looked up this stuff and what the heck is this? I mean, Denver is, we have had hotels that are like, so I looked up this stuff and what the heck is this? I mean, Denver is like a celebration of the anthropomorphic arts. Well, I found furry probably junior high-ish. I didn't know what furry was yet. That was back in the days of Neopets on the internet. I found all those, message boards, and I'm like, these are my people. I guess I'm here now.
The person I identify more with. Like they have like a more modern gateway into the furry shit, like media that has been around for only like 20 years and not like fucking 50 or 60 or 70.
I found all those, message boards, and I'm like, these are my people. I guess I'm here now.
That didn't happen to me. For me, it was a very reluctant, gradual absorption into the furry culture. I think in the past, year or two, I feel like I've been more into it. Recent years recent days, honestly, week or so, I've been kind of hesitant to express that part of me for different reasons that I felt before. I don't think I'm gonna open up.
My parents, they always thought it was like some weird, kinky thing that, like, what is my daughter doing?
That's what I'm saying. Like, I think a lot of people assume it's like a sex thing, and there is definitely a category of furries that are like really into the sex part. That's not inherent.
The fandom
it shouldn't be thought of in that way.
Growing like some.
Oh, I'm sorry. Should I have subtitles on? I think I should.
Weird, kinky thing that, like, what is my daughter doing? The fandom.
Wait a minute. Kinda don't need subtitles. I just realized how loud this shit was. I'm sorry.
Growing up was kind of a hobby, especially working as a medic. It was a side thing that I could do and enjoy outside of work. Now I run conventions. I mean, my life is the fandom, and I don't know where I would be now without it.
Yeah. I wish I could say the same. I really should just get into it, but I feel like there's a barrier in my way. I don't think I'll talk about it really, but I will find a way through. There really is no choice, because I really don't see a future where I'm not like super furry. I'm really embarrassing myself talking about this shit right now.
It's 6:30.
Producers had to ask fucking and this footage must have been really hard to find. Like some random zooming in on furry shit from 40 years ago. What the fuck? Footage must have been really hard to
You
find.
had the creators, the people that made the art. They were fans of comic strips, they were fans of comic books, and they were all aiming to be in that business.
But we still didn't get to the modern shit. Fuck. I'm really wondering, curious when they talk about furry shit that I identify with more, but it's still great.
Reed Waller started an apazine called Voodie. It had funny animals in it, but it was more of an underground influence.
APA, APA, Amateur Press Association.
All the members of this apazine would make photocopies of their artwork and send it into the editor, who would compile the entire book together and then send a copy out to all the members.
And then you would get back, here's my work and 25 or 30 other works.
This is how a lot of people over a large geographical area got a chance to get feedback from other artists, authors, and creators.
There was literally this giant culture of people who were talking to each other by writing into the letters columns of their favorite magazines. It was like the internet in slow motion. we were a very strange fandom. We didn't fully grasp how strange we were going in, but we were not a fandom of a property.
No,
Fandom. We didn't fully grasp how strange we were going in, but we were not a fandom of a property, nor were we a fandom of a genre. Other fandoms would look at us and
yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself. We're not fandom of a specific thing, but the whole thing.
Get extremely confused. What are you about? Who are you about?
Fucking way like a fucking teacher.
All of those specificities don't matter.
Isn't that crazy that back then, if you're a furry, you were thought of as weird, even among other weird people, like that are into like sci-fi and shit. Like, what the fuck? I'm really glad that these people have found a space to express themselves, at least being weird together.
It's the overarching animals doing things.
In general, yeah, I guess off themes of mine was, out of anything, I feel the most one of I feel very attentive to like whether or not people are expressing themselves and all that. I don't know if there's like an artist side of me that's saying that, or like I'm just being really empathetic or whatever. I think it's a dysphoria thing. I don't know. Some interesting observation.
Things that animals don't do thing that binds this all together. Beyond that, it can be anything.
Probably the earliest furry work I would talk about is Omaha the Cat Dancer, which exists because Tarl Wayne, who is fairly influential in the early furry fandom, wrote a letter to Voodie.
Sent in a postcard saying something about how there wasn't enough sex in Funny Animal Comics. And,
oh, here we go. It's like a fur. Are they gonna talk about like sex now? And how weird it is? Oh no.
I've never really been sensible about resisting dares.
In response, Kate Worley and Reed Waller came up with Omaha the Cat Dancer, which is about a exotic pole dancing feline and her boyfriend and some.
Dang. They're like, dude, we should make it. I'm like, holy shit. Dang. Very surreal.
Sometimes girlfriend. It gets a complicated storyline sometimes. It was a story with drama, a story with realistic action, with character motivations. Omaha was widely acclaimed as a great pro-feminist comic as well, because it showed a female main character in control of her own destiny, and she didn't let society decide what she wanted.
There was a local crackdown in the St. Paul, Minnesota community.
That's crazy.
About the ethicality of serving liquor in places where ladies took their clothes off. And I incorporated this into a satirical strip, and I was sort of making fun of local politics and so forth. But once it got rolling, the satire just kind of dropped out of it because the characters just kind of took over the story. Once it got rolling, the satire just kind of dropped out of it because the characters.
Yeah, it was like ironic, but like now it's not. That's crazy.
Just kind of took over the story.
Right.
We had all quietly discovered that part of what.
We're sick? Hello? Please, I don't want that narrative. Please, it's not all about sex. Please.
Brought us.
It is for some people.
To furry characters, anthropomorphic characters, was that we thought they could be sexy.
Dang, that's the narrative they're going for now. I'm not gonna assume this is how it is for the whole documentary. There's just no way. I have faith that this documentary goes into more depth than that, but this is gonna be a really interesting part. Oh man, am I gonna get demonetized for this? Am I gonna get taken down for this?
it seemed kind of obvious when you saw some of these characters and how they were designed that they were intended to be sexy.
Yeah, I don't know how people can be like, dang, you think this is sexy? You're so weird. But then you see the cartoons, you see this, and you see like Willow Bunny, and like, I mean, that was the point.
We felt we were just kind of jumping on a big existing bandwagon.
Yeah, one more.
I feel like I'm gonna get fucking taken down for
The very first conventions I ever went to, there were erotic material of every fandom.
I feel like I'm gonna get taken the fuck out of this. I'm gonna turn off those fellows in case. Holy fuck. This is a kid show. I'm gonna take down, okay, I'm gonna upload the VOD to YouTube. I'm gonna get unlisted. I'm gonna take down the spot, dude.
So of course furry is full of sexuality.
Hopefully, I shouldn't be pausing all this chat, but
because furry is full of human beings who are alive and thinking and feeling.
Ken Sample quite often would draw this.
And they're expressing that too, and I think that's cool. But they're expressing themselves freely. That's what it's about. That's what it's about, right? That's literally what furry shit is all about.
Little cougar guy that looked an awful lot like Ken. We started calling that character Ken Cougar. We thought, hey, we should have our own character too.
Well, not they didn't even talk about personas the whole time. That's like a lot of people's gateway into the furry fandom. It's like, dang, it would be cool if I had my own animal character. And then they were into it despite personas not really being a thing, I guess, at the time.
Too, that's actually us. This was a big shift in the fandom. We went from fans of animal people to being.
I have a persona too. This is something I identify with. It's literally my profile picture. By the way.
Animal people.
I had to do it. Oh, There's no way. I'm fucking tripping. It's probably just like face paint and a fucking nose.
This created an explosion in art demand.
Hello?
A fursona is someone's character that represents them. That may be how they see themselves. It may be an aspirational character, what they wish they were or would like to become.
Okay, I'm really glad that they touched on this right away. It's not, I thought I was the only one that had a persona that didn't necessarily represent me how I am now, but representing how I want to become. I thought I was the only one that had that approach, but I'm glad that it looks like I'm not the only one. I'm glad that they covered that really quickly. As if everyone's like that.
As an artist, it involves kind of getting inside their head and figuring.
Maybe I'll talk about my persona and why she is the way she is. As time goes on, maybe. There's lore. There's actually a lot of lore. Not that much lore, but there's a decent bit of lore and symbolism in her design. I never really
figuring out what is it that their persona is saying.
And it's really not that deep, honestly, but if you've seen the whole picture of my persona and you know what the symbolism behind what a tiger is and what a butterfly is, and then that's a good start. There's more to it than that in her design, but it's like half of it.
Who is this person and what part of this human is this furry character, this fursona that you're designing? When you can figure that out and you show them the final piece of art and they're like, oh my gosh, that's perfect. That's just like the greatest thing in the world.
Because a lot of people, their furry character is the better version of them.
That's weird because I literally designed my own thumbnail and then I like drew her as well. So I like did it to myself. My first art I got of her was definitely very surreal.
This would be me if I didn't have these problems and these things. This is the best of me. Because everyone likes to think of animals as being more pure and more innocent and stuff like that. Because humans can do some pretty dark things. Granted, so do animals in the real world, but we're not getting into that. This is fantasy. At least that's how I always interpreted it. That, and I think some people just thought certain animals are cute.
Everybody wanted pictures of their Fursonas.
We started getting together discussions.
You go to a fur con. I feel like it's much more easy for me to make friends with other furries than with other rival players.
Groups.
A big reason why I chose to play Rivals was because of the furry influence. So like, even if sometimes I might not feel like competing, or maybe someday, sometimes, every now and then I might not even like really feel like playing the game. But I can enjoy the art. You know, I feel like I can enjoy Rivals in multiple different ways, and one of those ways is the furry shit. That's a big reason why I wanted to play Rivals competitively. I feel like there was more to love for different reasons than just the gameplay. I really resonate with the art as well.
What is your Fursona?
My earliest character was a kangaroo named White Death because I was 13 and I was super edgy.
I chose a husky. They were always my favorite dog, and the personality-wise of a husky is basically me.
I really like border collies because
Are you kind of embarrassed? I'm kind of embarrassed. Probably just me. Like, dang, this is so fucking weird. Oh, no, I'm the weird one too.
super smart, and then I was like, but I need to be ferocious like a wolf. There's a border collie wolf character. His name was Kygel.
That art is so good. Like, I really like that style. Holy shit.
And I had stolen the name from...
They have their initials? Or like, I'm trying to find out right now. Can I commission this?
Character.
Okay, no, completely indiscernible.
His name was Kygel, and I had stolen the name from an exchange student that was at my school.
I think people join furry because of how encouraging it is of exploring yourself, understanding yourself, and expressing it.
Yeah, I think if more people viewed it like that, and more people understood the benefit, then I think so many people will have this outlet to express themselves that they wouldn't otherwise. Straight up. I don't like to draw. I don't like to do. Okay, I don't like to draw. Kind of iffy about music. I mean, I love listening to music with all my heart. It's like one of my biggest passions. But like, I don't really make music. I don't really draw. I don't really write. That's another reason why I played Rivals, because I feel like because you have so much control over your character, I feel like it feels kind of like an art, so it kind of satisfies that part of me a little bit as well. The competitor part, the furry part, and the artist part. So like, the little teensy tiny artist in me. But I feel like the Fursona is my favorite medium of art. No, for sure. I don't even need to draw it. You don't even need to do it yourself. Pay someone else to do it. That's how people make clips too. I have 3 pieces of art for my Fursona. Really not that much, but it's only been like a month. Or like 3 weeks. One of them I drew myself, but yeah, I really need to get into this stuff more. Honestly, I've been. Anyway, it's not about that. It's not about that. It's not about that. It's about this documentary how my story.
I've been drawing for as long as I can remember. I just picked it up as a kid and didn't really stop. I'd say I identify a lot with birds.
Birdsona? I love birds. My Birdsonas out there. Fucking beautiful.
I'm pretty quiet and a little bit shy or flighty. I deal with social anxiety and things like that.
Yeah, that's a lot of furries actually have that overlap, and that's the reason why fursuiting, being in a suit, being in the furry suit, you know, imagine you guys know what I'm talking about. That's what comes into people's minds when they think of furry. I think because you don't have to make eye contact, you don't have to talk, it definitely helps a lot of people manage that better, because it gets easier to interact. And it's like it's not really you, it's like your character, you know? So you can play it off as just you being in character, you know what I'm saying? So it definitely helps. If you have social anxiety, try the furry thing out. It could help you.
I feel like I have one foot in the furry fandom and one foot in fantasy illustration. There's a humanness that you can impart to animals or dragons or anything like that, where there's that ability to relate to what you're seeing, even though what you're seeing is fantastical. And I think that's really powerful. I started doing conventions to go and sell my work and show it. I love it a lot more than just doing like a
This stream. I pasted the stream in a coffee's Discord. Rivals player. Like, what if I put it in the furry Discord? Fun. Watch out, Rivals players. You're gonna be surrounded by furries. Or not. I don't know. Pretty late.
A mainstream comic convention where it's all people celebrating other intellectual properties that are technically corporate.
I can't wait to do that talk this evening, 9 to 10 p.m.
One of the things I really love about the fandom is how many people find it to be their path out of their shell.
That's me. I fit in that category. Yeah, that's really why I really want to commit to it more. I'm just a little scared for multiple reasons. Some might be predictable, others might not be predictable. And it comes down to a parent being protective of me, stuff like that. But
How many people find it to be their path out of their shell?
Those people. That when you got the right fursuiter doing the right thing, you got a fursuiter and they're doing the same thing. That's when it hits me in my soul. I'm like, Jesus fuck, what did I get myself into? But I love it though. But like, a part of me is still very self-conscious about it.
I started looking
Fursonas and then fursuit. That's like
at all the different suits and stuff like on Google search, and they just look so unique and just fascinated me. And I was like, I can do that. I really want to do that. And this is another creative outlet that I can use. And I wanted to make my own character come to life and be one of those fursuits.
I remember other people to express themselves in this kind of way. Yeah, dang. Oh, no. I'm gonna write that down. Fuck. I'm doing like literally like. I mean, like literally like 10 seconds. Hold on. Yeah, I really see myself wanting to help people to express themselves freely. I think that's something that would give me a lot of reprieve and respite. Like, in what way? That's when you think about verbal expression or artistic expression. Could I be a conventional counselor or an art therapist counselor thing?
Wearing my Luna suit for the first time, I ran into so many people that wanted to take pictures with me. And
you're not furry, but at this point you feel really weird. If that's the case, thanks for sticking through. Thanks for hanging on.
it was just really exciting to like go around and have fun in first.
Dude, I was looking away for a while and then I see them like about to fucking follow.
I remember wearing my Luna suit for the first time. I ran into so many people that wanted to take pictures with me. And it was just really exciting to like go around and have fun in fursuit with other people in fursuit.
You can look at their character and learn things about them in that very moment. Like what their species choice is, what sort of colors they're using, what their name is. That's all broadcasting a lot of.
That is true. It's very telling. The animal and the symbolism behind the animal and like the colors. You know, whether or not they're conventional for that particular animal or not can say a lot. Or like whether they're bright or dark or the color scheme. You know, I guess the size character. So in the series, they're all in the size, I guess. So. Also, shout out to Sonic Fox. I love Sonic Fox. They are huge inspiration. Probably my biggest inspiration at this point. Because at first it was Zero, but then Zero got outed to be kind of sus. And Sonic Fox was next in line. I'm like, yeah.
Their name.
Guess they're my boy. Well, you know what I mean. I don't mean boy.
That's like what their species choice is.
My gender neutral phone.
What sort of colors they're using, what their name is. That's all broadcasting a lot of things that they want you to know about them, and they might not even realize what they're sending out subconsciously.
Usually when I go to make a suit, everything from gender to height plays a role in creating these characters for people, and it's actually really fun to help them explore this whole new character that they're creating.
I think you're in Vogus.
This is our sportsmaster.
Yo. Is there like a art therapist or like for furries? Like, hello? Sorry guys, I'll keep watching in like literally like 20 seconds. I'm sorry guys, I'm learning so much about myself right now. Keep watching like literally so soon. God, am I gonna learn so much about? I'm gonna learn so much about myself by the time it's over. Maybe.
We had been going to Baycon, and the anime fans were taking over the convention. The people running the convention kind of politely said, could you guys maybe get your own convention because this is science fiction and it's becoming all anime? Rodney and I said, gee, maybe we could have a furry convention just for furries.
Here we go. Here we go.
So we started looking around for a hotel local to us. We weren't coming in there with a corporate credit card and laying it down and say this pays for everything. If I signed the contract with the hotel, I was liable to pay the hotel.
I will admit I was young and had kind of stars in my eyes. I think we had a crew of like 5, counting Mark and myself, for running everything.
We'd been tossing names around, and I had the idea, how about conference except put a U instead of an E? Conference. That's the name we picked.
Really?
We numbered the first convention 0.
Because we weren't certain it was going to work.
So we said to ourselves, let's get crazy. If we're going to put on our own conventions, let's try and do some things differently. One of the big things that you will always find in the history of science fiction conventions is the Saturday night masquerade.
It was the big event. They weren't professionally lit in any way, shape, or form. All of us myopic fans with their glasses could see these glowing blobs sauntering down the stage.
Yeah, I guess that looks pretty.
We thought it'd be great if people could actually see the costumes. Maybe even close up.
Is this a little better? Is this a little better? Yeah. All right. Okay. Down on the masters a bit. You're fine. Okay. We'll begin with these first 10 costumes.
Oh, no, it's not. Hold on. I'm sorry, guys. Hold on. The stream looks alright. I see why. Okay. I understand. I see why it looks really small. I'll fix that for you guys real quick. I sorry for putting up with this for so long. Sure, that'll do. That'll do. Oh god. Oh wait. We're doing this on the fly. Oh man. Okay. Yeah, this should be good enough. Should be fine. But you know, this thing. There we go. Honestly, it's been really good. They're like killing two birds with one stone here. They're like having furries express themselves, but like also like whatever the fuck, like they actually have to look into the costume. I'm learning so much on myself. I really gotta. I have to sit down. I'm learning so much about myself. I feel like there's a lot of potential in helping other people express themselves, and not necessarily in this kind of way, but with art in general. I just don't know what I can think about that. Anyway, that's all I can do.
Back then, the art show was the biggest thing. The art shows were always popular and always made a lot of money for the artists.
We wanted to make furry conventions smart and fun. If you wanted to come to learn stuff, you could learn stuff. If you wanted to come to hang and be friends, you could hang and be friends.
January of '91, a friend of mine and I drove 44 hours straight from Tampa to SoCal to Conference 2 in Anaheim. A friend of mine and I drove 44 hours straight from Tampa to SoCal to Conference 2 in Anaheim. It was a completely new experience. My first trip out of the time zone. Seeing hills for the first time, then mountains for the first time, and then
snow.
Oh man, I was really into this. What's insane is that I keep had a big passion about the internet. You know, it was very hard to satisfy that need, I guess, about the internet. I'm not saying that the internet replaces FurCon, not at all. It's a completely different experience to enjoy something with real people in real life than on the internet. But it can help tide you over. I guess that wasn't as much of a thing back then.
Just a completely new thing, throwing me out of my element. This sheltered, shy college kid, and next thing you know, I'm in California amongst several hundred furries. These comic artists that I'd seen in fanzines and black and white comics, they're right there in front of me, and they're just people. I was learning art myself and drawing from time to time. Next thing you know, I'm writing for the first 6 issues of a magazine called Yarf.
There's been some footage floating around that's just adorable. The terrible 80s hair, the 80s fashion, and it was very clear
How to go to a furry convention, this is it. Texas Furry PLC.
that these
I had a friend that
people were
went there.
having fun.
I'm very thankful to have an in-real life friend, by the way. Boring? Am I boring, or is the documentary boring? What's the boring thing here?
They've found a place to start exploring who they were at a time and a place that they never had been able to before. It was very inclusive and very welcoming and became sex positive.
I'm not going to put words in your mouth.
It was very inclusive and very welcoming and became sex positive. Not that it was about sex, but that when sex happened, it was generally viewed favorably. It wasn't dirty, it wasn't wrong. It was just sex, and people have sex, and that's fine.
I think that's what's cool about this and furries in particular. I don't know. I'm a furry and all this is boring. That's reasonable, honestly. Like I was saying earlier on, I would like to get to a part where I feel like I relate to it more. Like new age furry shit, where the hell? I think we'll get to that point eventually. But yeah, I like that there's less stigma against like sexual things, which is just cool. I think, because honestly, for a lot of people, sex is like a way to express themselves that they wouldn't normally. Honestly, I feel like that's how it is for me. I feel like that's how it is for a lot of people. So that's cool. Like you aren't normally. And I'm not gonna get into specifically what, because it's kind of embarrassing for me to talk about, but I think you guys can see it.
We were fully prepared for it to fall flat on its face and cost us a bunch of money and to say, well, that was a great idea, let's try something else. But it worked.
It gave me a feeling of accomplishment.
We were onto something, and we said, let's take this football and run with it.
It's boring. I think it's really fascinating that people found a way to connect with other people in this specific, with a very super specific niche, weird interest without the internet. I think that part's fascinating. I'd say it's more concerning than it's boring. Like, it makes me wonder if I was these people, I don't think I would have made it this far.
We did.
Oh, it's like we're talking about
The con chair is always the one in the spotlight, where people think we're the only one making the decision. This whole team of 60 to 100 people put in months and months of work to put on this show. I can't run it with 5 people. It wouldn't happen. There's no way.
Yeah, well, we're here now, and it's fun seeing furries now. Yeah. I mean, I feel like I can relate to them more, so it's more valuable in that way. But I think it's cool that I'm not gonna like undermine how you feel. I'm not gonna say that you're wrong for saying that, because of course that's not true. Yeah.
Spoiler to
I
drop.
think there's a value in seeing the old
The thing that I didn't know was how many small moving parts there are. What time things open, what time things close, when things finally get locked down, and how many people it takes to put on something like this.
Usually a setup starts right after the last one ended. We start putting things in place, we start listening to feedback, we start improving things. It's a very, very complex machine.
Green machine. There's a ton of different departments. We have a business director, events director, an operations director, marketing and public relations, theming, our HR managers, IT and AV work, so all the sound and lighting that you see.
Things like Dealer's Den, which is a vendor space, requires hand choosing the dealers. And we go through 400 applications every single year.
There's only 2 female convention chairs in the entire fandom, and we have one, and we're proud of that.
I graduated as an EMT and
Anyway, I'm not gonna reflect on.
from high school at the same time and worked my butt off to get to paramedic school as soon as I could.
Yeah.
The president of that program, EMT, and from high school at the same time and worked my butt off to get to paramedic school as soon as I could. The president of that program sat me down in an office and said, "Look, you're going to be the only woman in this class. I think you should leave." Just being able to overcome that in that profession, also coming to furry, has made a big difference because in the convention leadership world, there's not a lot of women. It is still extremely male dominated.
This is actually true. There's way more furry, like male furries than whatever, girl furries. Honestly, sometimes I feel like there's more trans girl furries than cis girl furries. It's really weird. It's interesting. It's good that they're talking about the demographics being pretty one-sided, I guess.
A lot of people in the 911 first responder profession hurt their back. That's unfortunately what happened to me. I wasn't allowed to do that job anymore. I do miss medicine, but I get a lot of the same gratification out of this.
I wonder how you have
The computer, the network, the mass communication revolution is what made furry fandom take off. A whole lot of people who are furries are in IT.
Snake, you're still here? Here we go. Here we the fuck go. I think we're about to get to the modern age now.
Communication revolution is what made.
I thought was cool seeing away. It was really great seeing away. Don't get me wrong. But at least I can connect.
Fandom take off. A whole lot of people who are furries are in IT.
Yeah,
but it was the realm of the military and colleges. That were the only people who knew about it. Well, eventually, the college people went home and took a lot of the computer stuff with them.
And then along came ARPANET, FidoNet, bulletin boards, the proto-internet, a bulletin board service. You had to dial in to this central network and you could post text, pictures.
I guess, like, because the internet is a huge component of the furry fandom, it's what made it take off. Like I said, I guess they call it the internet now. Makes sense.
To this central network and you could post text, pictures.
But it's good that they're taking their time and really explaining every little component, every little piece of history. I think that's cool. Eventually we're gonna get to the new stuff, so.
Into this central network and you could post text, pictures. The pictures was the painful part because it would take about 30 minutes to download. And you would see the cursor rendering across the screen every line of pixels.
It was only a week until you got a reply to your post instead of a month. Hey, life improves.
People today take it for granted. Back then, this was new. This was unheard of. This was Star Trek stuff. It gave people a chance to do role play as their characters.
That's true. I feel like because the information is spreading faster, people can enjoy it doing whatever fuck furry shit together in real time. That's crazy. Here we go, 90s, here we go. Like half of my shit that got me into furry stuff has been 90s, 2000s stuff. Like,
when I was just coming out of college and I was starting to work, the internet was a very small place. We think of it as this big thing of global data, but really there wasn't as much out there as people think there was. And there weren't the browsers. So we were using things like Gopher and Mosaic and all kinds of weird technology that doesn't exist anymore.
What was it? I think it's cool that they made a mock-up. It's pretty cute.
We're using things like Gopher and Mosaic and all kinds of weird technology that doesn't exist anymore.
A bunch of people would get together on a computer system, form characters, and go on an adventure together.
They started calling these.
Yeah, now that they put it in. Now it's.
Things multi-user dungeon.
Whoa, dang, what the fuck? I think that's really, really cool. Yeah, hello. Good night. It's 11. What channel? Art channel. I'll be back in like 10 seconds. I died, right? Oh, shit. Basically stalling for time. There we go. That was a big hit. Any furries in the chat that don't know what it is? That's what I do. I love it so much. Look it up. There it is. Talking about it. And just stop it real quick. Why am I falling? I'll explain in a moment. kind of hurts to eat right now. I'm like, my throat kind of hurts. But like, I really wanted to get right after this documentary tonight. Because I'm leaving early in the morning tomorrow. So like, come on. I really wanted to get this out of the way. We're gonna keep listening. We're gonna keep talking. And I'm alright. I really can call me. Alright, oh, oops, I forgot to change that over. There we go. I guess I'm ready. I think. That's my mind here. Alright. Watch.
Months. It would say you are now in a room that is this big, it's colored red, it's made of brick, and there is a dragon sitting there that's going to eat your face.
Other gatherings started that were entirely social. They didn't want to continue using the word mud because that still had that dungeon connotation. So they started calling him mucks.
With the online communities, particularly Furry Muck that started in 1990, people were getting to know each other, and they would go to conventions to meet each other.
Excuse me, are you the... Oh my god. This is like this is what makes, to me, this is what makes conventions and these, like, tournaments and shit like that, these cool social gatherings so special, that you get to meet these online friends, but they didn't even, they made them seem so special even outside of meeting online friends. Now they're getting into this. I really like the narrative, the storylines they're going for. Whoever did the narrative for the show is doing a great job.
Carno?
Yes.
Hi, I'm the Joe Strike.
Hey, hiya, Joe.
Oh, yeah, shake right there. We go.
I'm Mujeep on Furry Muck. This is Cherek, who also is on Furry Muck. Whoa, Furry Muck for furries with long tails.
And it became more about meeting each other and having this sense of community beyond just people centered around creators.
That's how I first found that there was an organized furry fandom. The community was my solace, my salvation. I was not very happy in where I was, the south side of Chicago at the time. I spent a very, very long year there.
Here we go, we got furries.
And somebody mentioned that there was a convention coming up in Southern California called Con.
Kind of right. I'm gonna feel like the most. I'm gonna feel so well. But sorry, guys, again, let me talk. I feel like I think this guy needs his name.
Ferns. Maybe you should go. I said, I'm a postdoc at this point.
Alright, keep watching.
I don't have any money. I called my...
Watching because it's being patient with all these,
My dear and sainted mother, kids, never lie to your mom. I told my mom the truth. I'd like to go to a conference in California, but the professor won't pay for it. That's a true statement. So she sent me the money to go to the conference. And that was my first furry convention. Now, I had been going to science fiction conventions for 10 years. I'd been volunteering at them. I was a convention goer. But this was the first time that it was a convention that was entirely of interest to me. And started going to furry conventions every year after that.
Uncle Kage / Sam Conway.
He's very charismatic.
He's very funny.
He had this sort of mad scientist kind of persona.
So you're gonna create real furries.
I am, as a matter of fact.
And how are you gonna do that?
Well, it's quite simple. You see, you take the.
I was sitting in the lobby, and I was telling somebody a story. It's in my nature.
As Mary Shelley said, if you make the creature.
Wait a minute.
I was sitting in the lobby, and I was telling somebody a story. It's in my nature.
As Mary Shelley said, if you make the creature of gigantic stature, you have a much easier time in dealing with the parts.
And they simply said, would you come back next year and do that as an event? What? Complain about my job? They said, yeah. I said, oh, I can do that, sure. So I stood up in the lobby and complained about my job for an hour. Well, he was kind of doing stand-up that was slice of life. People loved his stories.
He was already getting a reputation for his performances, and we were just thrilled to have him at our show.
And that was 25 or so years ago. People still fly me all over the world to get up on stage and talk. That's all I do. I don't understand it. I just do it, and they keep inviting me back, so I must be doing something right. After Furry Muck, almost all the furries were college students. This tripled our attendance since we had all of the role players coming in, all the college students coming into the fandom. The gender of the content began to shift.
What was that mean?
You had a lot more males. You had a lot more lesbian couples and gay couples.
People don't realize it, but back in the 60s and 70s, there wasn't that much of a gay community.
And now we're going to talk about the demographics and shit. Might be interesting to some.
Where could you go for companionship? Someplace where you had an equal chance of getting your teeth kicked in or getting arrested.
Right about the time that furry fandom was hitting was right about the time that the AIDS crisis hit.
They're going to talk about, like, stigma regarding furries. I guess that's what the LGBT stuff.
I know people who lost dozens of friends. An awful lot of people had to come out of the closet and get active for their own survival. There was, in fact, an LGBT contingent in the furries. We're going to celebrate both of those at once.
I still remember how I felt when I joined the fandom. When I was like a teenager and I had no idea if I was queer or not, and I was really scared to talk about it, and I couldn't tell my friends.
High school was rough. High school was rough.
I think I talked about how hard it is to connect to other people, I guess. In the real world or something like that. That's something I'd vibe with.
I was pretty socially isolated. I was nerdy. I was bullied.
The community around me at the time was not queer friendly or even art friendly.
Doing art's really vulnerable. Like, if you put something on the page, then you probably did that for a reason. About midway through college,
Stigma and shit. That's pretty interesting.
Did that for a reason. About midway through college, I started questioning my gender and eventually transitioned. And that was a very powerful time in my life where I got to really resort my identity as this purpose-driven person.
When I started to transition, I actually explored the identity first with my character to see, I guess, if it felt right to become more masculine. It was no longer Luna, it was now the masculine Nate.
and it's really helped me like explore what parts of myself I wanted to be as more trans-masculine versus, you know, the meek female I used to be. Safe place to explore the transition without transitioning myself first.
Dang, that's really clutch outlet. I don't think for me it's as deep as that, but yeah, like I don't know. It's like I said, it's having a persona is an opportunity to be someone that you wouldn't otherwise, either out of circumstance or by choice. But it can be very powerful in learning more about yourself and expressing yourself. Because it's fantasy, it's not real, or whatever the fuck. I mean, even if it might not be real, or whatever, the friends are real and the character is real, I don't know. I don't want to get off topic, but it is a medium, an opportunity to express yourself and learn more about yourself in ways that you wouldn't otherwise. And yeah. That's what I was saying. There's a lot of trans. But like my weird, like a circle or my little piece of the furry. I don't know. I was just wondering if it was just me or like my immediate community, or if there really is just a lot of trans people.
Trans experiences are just human experiences. Ultimately, furry is also about human experiences.
Once I discovered the fandom, I could chat with people online. I could express my creativity. I could make friends.
I can actually talk about being queer without like being worried that people make fun of me.
What better place is there to put yourself out there and say, hey, this is how I'd like to be seen or treated, when people will meet you on your own terms in a way that you just don't get anywhere else.
First three.
I show my mom this. I feel like my mom is, I don't know, like, as I become more open with my interests and passions, and as I actually make a conscious effort to connect with my family members more, like recently I came out to my brother as a furry. I've been out to him as trans for years, but, you know, I think he's more reluctant to, you know, let me be myself in that regard. But as I want to express myself more freely and these passions and shit, including furry shit, I think this would be a great thing to show them. To help them understand me or something. This is very well, narrative is very well written, very well done.
Conferences,
Explains it very well.
everyone who
A lot of
showed
the
up
things
was someone that I knew personally by name.
It's like every possible reason for someone to be a furry is covered here.
We realized that the con had gotten so large that we didn't know everyone by name.
Pull that down. Pull the mask down against your cheeks. My God, this is gonna be interesting to watch someday.
And if you asked who we were and could you point at us, they wouldn't know. And that was perfectly fine. So it was always about this thing. It was not about us. We never wanted to be celebrities.
There were very, very few fursuiters. There was only, I think, maybe one or two at the earliest furry conventions.
The suiting was almost non-existent. People would just paint their bodies, and that was it.
One of them is Hilda the Bambioid, created and performed by Robert Hill.
So we have a Bambioid invading.
Hello, Bambioid.
You can pretty much say that it was the original fursuit.
Whoopsie, hello, how you doing? I was part of the burgeoning fursuiting community.
Yo,
You can make your own mascot. That's mind blowing.
For your consideration, Lord Conqueror's 8th favorite costume is.
Yo, they're making it a competition. I don't want it to be about, like, I love competition with all my heart, shit, but it's like my top 2 passion. Like, that's why I play Rivals of Aces competitively, but I feel like I don't want furry shit to become a competition. I want it to be about expressing yourself freely. I don't want there to be a right or wrong, a black or white, win or lose, you know? But I'm not gonna speak for other people. That's just me. I'm not gonna intrude on other people. Come on, that's not what I'm about. Yeah, fuck. Definitely learning a lot about myself. Sorry guys, I was typing things to myself to look at later because I'm learning so much about myself right now. I was just typing out my thoughts and I'll reflect on more myself later. Keep watching. Keep watching these guys are sticking through. Yeah. I'm surprised that I was able to miss this work. Like, Jesus fuck. My throat was hurting all day today and eventually I just started to feel better and I was able to talk for hours, thank God. Because just time, I just got lucky that I just happened to feel better like a few hours before I started streaming again today, and like also like I drank like a lot of honey, a lot of water, a lot of cough drops. Like,
their convention conference grew to be the largest convention in its day, over 1,000 people, which was huge for the time. But then there was negative publicity about it, and I'm not sure how much detail you want to get into about that.
oh no.
We did have some incidents at conventions where there were people getting completely drunk, coming out into the convention.
Oh no, dude. This shit's too scary to look at. I feel very strongly about the mistreatment of furries because I feel like they're misunderstood. Super misunderstood.
And causing trouble. Or in some cases, getting stoned out of their mind and having to be taken off the property.
In the very early days, a furry convention was an unintentional pun, a rather wild and untamed affair. There was not a lot of attention paid to public decorum. And people were out there to have fun. They were letting themselves go. Let's just be crazy. That's fun and that's fine if you keep in mind that you're still in a public venue. Folks tended to forget that.
Yeah, this is really good. Thanks. Guys, I think people are coming through. Just for context, in case people are new to this chat, this is like maybe like the late 90s, early 2000s in this little timeline. Because I feel like this document is largely in chronological order. There's talk they're going into like how at furry cons people really let themselves go and get crazy and into dangerous levels, and we're gonna see what will become of that. maybe I'm thinking beginning of maybe they're gonna get into like the Sigma series at this point. I touched on it earlier.
Well, let's
They
see
said
now.
that
Should I
they referenced that there's a lot of LGBT people in the furry fandom. And there was stigma regarding that because it was like the fucking 80s and shit with AIDS and stuff.
talk about the semen in the elevator? No, I don't know if there's any truth to that. I think there were people who wanted to give the furs a bad reputation, and I think a lot of this misinformation was spread. But there might have been people who felt a little too liberated.
This caused us to have to do something we didn't think was necessary.
Dude, I feel like I can't even be saying this on Twitch.
We had to put rules of conduct in our program book. And we were criticized, why didn't you have rules of conduct from the very beginning? Because we didn't think people
What have I joined? Did you see the title, Ragu? Turn back now, Ragu. I'm pausing just for you, dude. I'm watching a furry documentary. And I guess you got me at the worst time. I think they're talking about like how people let themselves go too much. And like I don't know, I guess they're talking about sexual stuff now. Now's your chance, Ragu. Turn back now.
Okay, here we go. And when we had 200, 300, 400 people, we didn't have problems. Their twist on it was, yeah, Mark and Rodney allow that kind of stuff at conventions.
I remember when I was working at Disney Television in the mid-90s, the executives at Disney and at the other studios knew about furries, but they did not particularly like the furries.
Some furry artists have been turned away because the people that are interviewing them have heard about these furry conventions.
And interestingly, it wasn't just because of the adult material, it was also because they saw people trading art back and forth freely, and they did not like the idea of property being freely exchanged like that. It was kind of a professional hazard to let anyone know that you were involved with the furry fandom.
Oh yeah, stigma.
I had snuck away to go to conference for the weekend, and two of my coworkers had apparently shadowed the con and seen me there. As soon as I came into work, they popped in my cubicle and started going, "Furry, furry," and I was like, oh my god. I mean, they'd been there themselves, so what could they say?
You guys are here for a convention of your own? Yeah. Computers?
Marketing.
Whoa, even better.
There was a large fandom out here in California, and there was also one back east, kind of around New York.
Oh dang.
There had been an attempt to start up an East Coast furry convention, because in the United States there was Conference in Southern California, and that was it. So in 1997 they started Albany Anthrocon.
Yo, Anthrocon?
I went because it was only 4 hours away from Philadelphia. I could drive there instead of flying across the country. It was obviously a first-year con, kind of cute. As I said, I had been volunteering at science fiction conventions for years. And I was approached by one of their committee members who said, would you be our guest of honor next year? As the convention was coming up, they had an email list for staff members. A long-standing...
Casually sneaking in, we made it to the 90s, we have emails now. W.
Problem that I have as staff members. A long-standing problem that I have is I have a tendency to stick my nose in, whether it's wanted or not. Things were coming across the mailing list, and I'm going, and I would hesitantly type back, are you guys really sure you want to do that? You see, PhilCon tried this in 1984, and here this list of terrible things happened, and they swore high and low they'd never do that again. If you do this, that would get around those problems. Then they started asking my advice. Well, how would you run this? What would you do here? How should we do the following? They're honest questions, so I answered honestly. As the convention date was approaching, there was a concern over the finances. The chairman of the convention realized that we are probably going to completely lose our shirts. We're going to have to shut this down. Some of the staff members came to me and said, would you take over? And I said, this is all kind of happening awful fast, folks. First off, I'm your guest of honor. It looks kind of bad if I'm also your chairman that year. okay, I'm willing to do it because I want to help out. It's a good little convention. You guys are really gung-ho. I'm happy to do it. But it's gonna have to be done differently. You can't run it like a bunch of college kids having a party anymore. If you want this to succeed and have another year, you're gonna have to run it as a business.
Tell us all about Albany Anthrocon.
Albany Anthrocon no longer exists.
It's now become?
It's simply become Anthrocon. The furry revolution. We moved to the place that it all began. The Hilton Valley Forge. That's where the Declaration of Independence was signed. But you'll be awful bored.
In the Hilton?
In the Hilton.
Signed in the Hilton.
Signed in the Hilton.
Turn that off already. So these people don't know.
Finally, in 1999, I attended my very first furry convention, which was Anthrocon. It was one of the first major things I'd ever traveled to by myself. There were probably all of 30 events for the entire weekend. But for me, that was a lot to do. And this guy just came down. He said, "You look troubled, my friend. What's wrong?" And I was like, "Well, I just don't know what to make of all this." He put his arm around me and he said, "I want you to take a look around the lobby. This is a moment you will remember for the rest of your life." And that was the moment that I really realized I found a group of people that I not only related to, but they made me feel good about myself. My personality had a place in the world. And the person that told me that was Uncle Kagi.
You got us a great hotel. It's perfect. We can be there forever because it's got more space than we could ever possibly use. First year, bam, full. The next year we filled it and 2 hotels down the road. We're gonna need bigger space. I looked around in Philadelphia, got the problem solved. The Adams Mark has got more space than we could ever possibly need. Bam, full that very first year.
That was 1,457, in case you didn't hear that.
How many of us are there? When I was negotiating with Pittsburgh, so I said, okay, guys, it's perfect. We got more space there, and they said, shit, just stop. Don't say it. I'm still not allowed to say that phrase in regards to this city. We just got more space than we ever possibly need.
Every convention has a hook. The hook for Anthrocon is Pittsburgh itself. It's the city. The downtown area is vibrant and alive, and people are coming down to watch the fursuit parade. We were recently told that Anthrocon is the 3rd most valuable convention to the city of Pittsburgh itself.
We have become a Pittsburgh institution. We're not just an event that happens, we are now part of the city's art scene. I don't think any other convention anywhere has that sort of distinction.
I hate going on stage. I get stage fright hardcore. And people are like, you're the con chair. You have to be extroverted. You have to be willing to talk to anybody and talk about anything. And I'm not. The suit definitely helps with that.
That's insane. I was telling earlier that I think it helps people to interact.
I love being in a costume and being able to act like something else. Because in high school, I was the school mascot. I'm more open and comfortable with myself.
since I was like 3 years old. I was trying to take a feather duster and put it in my shorts, and then I have a tail. If you found a mask with feathers on it, possibilities were endless. So I was just trying to make the perfect costume. And I found furries where we're all trying to get the perfect costume. I had just gotten out of high school and I was starting to go to college, and I'm making a fursuit for some reason. I called a friend up and I was like, take me to PetSmart. I need to buy a collar in my costume. As we're driving back home, there's this car wash and we just see this guy hopping around.
Any non-furries watching around are gonna be like, what the fuck is this? I thought you were a rival player. Oh.
Struggling to get people to come to the car wash, and I was like, he needs my help. I jumped in, I was doing jumping jacks and just helping to get a bunch of people to pull over, and it was a success.
Really?
People were like, where did you get that? And then when they'd find out I made it, they were like, can you make me one? And I was like, oh, well, I don't know. And then when they'd find out I made it, they were like, can you make me one? And I was like, oh, well, I don't know.
I was obsessed with The Lion King, obsessed with pretty much any animal movie. So I
Way out here. There's like modern now. Almost, basically. I became furry in like 2012 or so. Yeah. Getting close.
built my first suit at 17 and I wore it for Halloween at my high school. Went to college, got my degree in something completely unrelated, and was just doing it on the side. And then it just kind of accidentally became a business, and now I'm doing this full time.
I would see these suits being built and I'm like, I want to do that. I want to get involved. And I didn't really feel very much technology was really being used in building these things. It was a challenge for me. I wanted to figure out how to do it my way.
My whole life I struggled with anxiety and depression, and a few years ago I was diagnosed with bipolar as well. It's really hard and it just tears you down, and I would come home from work every day crying. Nowadays, I feel like I've done something good. I'm creating something for someone to enjoy. I'm much more stable mentally, and it feels really good.
I'd worked really hard to have a nice house, a nice car, typical American dream. But I found it was really empty. And I found that it was not fulfilling at the end of the day. And I've been having more fun in doing this than I think I've ever had with anything in my entire life.
I teamed up with Scuff because Scuff was starting to build pieces and parts on his own.
Not only do you want a fursuit to look good, it needs to feel good. Every fursuit we build is custom. That's your fursuit. It should feel like your fursuit when you put it on.
I think we've made over 600 fursuits. I've kind of lost track.
Oh, I feel like I don't really see. But now since it's kind of widescreen now, it's cut off, so I need to fix that. Before it wasn't widescreen. So I need to fix that real quick. Real quick, it's gonna take like 20 seconds. I think I was here figuring this shit out on the fly. Oh fuck, oh fuck. There we go. Okay. There we go. Okay. Now we're gonna fix it. Fuck it. Okay. Here we go, here we go. Here we go. No. Thanks guys for waiting. Yes, this is figuring stuff out on the fly. Okay, you know what? I'm gonna crop it a little bit. It does not look right. This is like the stuff I do before the stream, but we're doing it in the middle of the stream. Like, okay. This will do, this will do. It's really fun. You're waiting, thanks for waiting. Fuck. Okay.
It's not just about the animal characters, it's about the people, and it's about the, you know, the atmosphere of it. And you've got writers, artists, animators, performers, musicians that all collide into this one massive group. And that's what makes it interesting. There's always something new. My daughter was in the fursuit parade. People complimented her on her suit, thought she was adorable. You want your child to have as many of those moments as they can. Because in the adult world, you know, you can't guarantee that for them.
The talent, he's, whoa. We don't know nearly enough about furries. We're trying to learn. Excellent. Got in touch with Mark Merlino.
He's the man. He'd be the man, yeah. The earliest media coverage that I can remember was in 1993. The crew from Sci-Fi Channel called Sci-Fi Buzz wound up going to one of the early conferences. And
it's being really late, and then I got home, and I can't go to sleep. I'm supposed to wake up really early tomorrow. It's a miracle. All I had to do was date and make up.
They did a very positive piece.
Now, we weren't as careful as people are these days, so if people got it wrong, I quite often would just let it slide. I sometimes regret that.
This was 2001. If you look through it, you'll see a lot of photos of furries enjoying themselves in fur meets, and people are talking about their own take on furry, interspersed with other articles talking about poly groups and orgies and stuff like that. That's not what furry fandom was all about.
I was approached in '99 by a guy claiming to be a film student.
This misconception that furries are all about sex, and that's not true. It's about expressing yourself freely. For some people, that's sex. That's not all of it.
I thought, you know, I'd help him with his film project, so I just answered a few questions and ended up on MTV in a rather unsavory show.
What was even worse was the CSI episode in 2003.
They actually had locals on the show as consultants who say that the show decided to ignore everything they said.
Unfortunately, that was the image that was now given. This is what the world was seeing. A boss would see a clip somewhere on the news. Oh, you're one of those weird, freaky people I heard about. Some folk lost jobs, lost relationships.
I had people at Disney telling me that I had to leave in order to focus on my career, or or else I wouldn't have a career in animation. And so I had to make a decision, and that decision was to leave the fandom to focus on a career.
You don't tell your family, you don't tell your work, you don't tell other people.
That definitely made for a insular environment.
I have, and yeah, the stigma is real now.
Especially in the early 2000s.
And you need to sell your magazine or something. You want people to pick that thing up and read it. Well, you can talk to this person for 45 minutes about, oh, I made this fursuit and it took me this long and here's how I stitched it and this is good. You can talk to this guy over here. Well, yeah, I'm a writer. I write stories and then my stories are all about furries and I put furries in the stories and I write. Or you get the guy who says, yeah, I like to have sex in my fursuit. That's what's going to sell. Damned if I'm going to stand around and let you put this TV show on that's going to make them embarrassed to be a part of this remarkable thing that we have created together. So I fought back.
It's nasty, it's vulgar. Like I said, sex is a way to express yourself in a way that a lot of people wouldn't get to. It's a chance to be somebody that you aren't normally. I think that's pretty cool and that should be valued. And as a result, I don't think there should be this much stigma surrounding sex, but at the same time, that's not what furry fandom stands for completely.
Back. Here is the problem we face. The media wants to do stories on furry fandom. Very, very often, they are going to be asking questions. Does that sort of thing go on at your convention? Look, I run the thing. If that sort of thing was going on at my convention, number one, I would like to think I'd know about it. Number two, why am I not invited? Yeah, you're all laughing. Ha ha, it's a joke, it's a joke. You notice I didn't say no. Never lie. But you can minimize it.
Anthrocon is not just for people in costume. It's for artists, cartoonists, performers,
And we have writers, artists, puppeteers, and they'll be wandering about. If you see a large raccoon on the streets of Pittsburgh, don't be alarmed, it's just us. If they're going to have their misconceptions, the only thing we can do is just stand back and say, here we are.
Kage always is out there talking about the money we bring to the city and the goodwill we bring to the city.
He knew how to make furry appealing to the public at large, and it is just so gratifying and rewarding to come to a place where you're welcome and embraced.
Yes, welcome to opening
For
ceremonies
hours, a few weeks, in like a week, throughout the year.
what looks to continue to be the largest anthropomorphics convention in the world.
Everybody's scared of saying it. It's fine. Sex is fine. And sometimes we have it. It's not what defines the community, but it's part of the community. And for a lot of people, this community helped them discover what that means. How could you just try to say it doesn't exist? That's insane.
I've been accused of whitewashing the fandom. I've been accused of, oh, he's trying to control the media. Well, you know what? You try it someday. You know, let's get you in front of a camera and have them say, okay, so what's it like to have sex in a fursuit? Let's have you answer that question. Especially if you know that your grandmom's watching, or your mom, or your dad, or your future spouse. When furry fandom first began, it was organized by some fellows who, as enthusiastic as they were, really did not pay much mind to the sort of public image they were giving to this burgeoning fandom. Let's face it, I was there. Kind of looked like Pride Fest on an acid trip. I have worked very, very, very hard to foster good relationships with the local media and with the city of Pittsburgh. I want to keep it that way.
I've heard at least one opinion up there that the physical aspect seems more prevalent, the sexual aspect. Why do you think? Where do you think it originated from?
If you're going to put all your effort into one little piece, you want to make sure it sells. And the one that's sure to sell is that hot, steamy one.
On the internet, it's horrible because, like, you cannot find any, like, good, normal furry art.
You go into the conference art show, and even in the general audience section, there's stuff that I wouldn't show a child, or my mother, or any of my friends outside furry fandom.
Sex sells everywhere. You look at any subculture, mainstream, subculture, goth, furry, anywhere.
Not to the extreme extent that it is portrayed and pushed and produced in furry fandom.
Well, okay,
I am not asking people to behave differently than the general society. I'm asking them to behave like people.
Okay, I think that's it. Wait, let's have one.
We started getting problems with people trying to sabotage the convention pretty early on. You had to chalk this up to the fact that people didn't like Rod.
The first dude organized this shit, and it must be really scary to have people try to fuck up this thing. Like, you're new, like, imagine being one of the organizers and you're like, you feel like you're on the cusp of some really great artistic meeting that could change people's lives. Like, it's very unique. Do art that you know, and people are like, try to fuck it up.
Rodney and I, especially because we were a couple. They naturally assumed our main interest was have a gathering of like-minded people for sex. And a lot of these rumors were strung on for years.
And we're having some trouble here at the convention too, because some of the people involved in the hotel believe that if it is a cartoon character, obviously it was designed to attract children, and therefore we're trying to do something reverse by attracting children.
And then a Bay Area for.
And therefore we're trying to do something reverse by attracting children.
And then a Bay Area furry convention was going to happen in January, this same
You're saying fucking me on my concert, but I'm happy to go. So,
time. A Bay Area furry convention was going to happen in January, this same time ours had happened for nearly 10 years. So we decided to change our dates. A lot of the fans from San Diego said, how about the Town and Country? We've been having science fiction conventions there for years. So I went and talked to the hotel, and I cut a deal with them. But when we tried to have our planning meetings in San Diego, the staff from up here would not come. They wouldn't drive it. And more of the responsibility fell on me and Rodney. And it was taking all my time. As a nail in the coffin, we had the worst April weather they've ever had in San Diego in 20 years. It was actually hailing in San Diego. Attendance was down by at least 200 people. When I had the staff meeting at the end of the convention, I said, okay, I have worked with Rodney, ran this convention from 0 to 10. I am stepping down. People looked around for someone to replace me, and the gentleman who had been doing our daily newsletter stood up and said, I will take it over. Everyone said, great.
And the lore about the networking convention, what did it start?
I guess it was in 2003. He basically stood up at the closing ceremonies and said, I am officially closing Conference forever. He had told us that he'd trademarked the name and that nobody else could ever have a convention called Conference.
Not bad, guys. Would you like to have the right to my heart rate monitor if you, so you guys can see my heart rate, I don't have that with this. Or if I need you guys all for percentage.
I feel strange saying this, but I expected it to get bigger. I just had this dream in my head of everything kind of coming together. But we're going into an era where people are more about breaking apart communities rather than coming together into big communities. And unfortunately, there's furry too.
Oh, I guess it makes sense that I feel like the furry fandom kind of split up into different sections of it, I guess. Over time, we have these like safe for work people, and then these like people that are really into the porn aspect, and genres like Sonic OCs, like My Little Pony. I'm sure they're gonna talk about My Little Pony, because I think I was really into watching Fortnite, just like primitive animations made on the DS basically. And a lot of the animations were furry, and there's Pokemon and Animal Crossing. But I think My Little Pony is what really was the name of the costume that maybe like really look into furry stuff. I'm sure they're gonna talk about that at some point. But yeah, the point is, I'm sure, like it definitely makes sense that a lot of people like. Sorry about the ASMR. I'm trying to be really quiet because I'm sure my mom wants to do sleep at this point, but I gotta finish this story. Like, there's a lot of people like I don't know, different. There's very different distinct parts of the fandom. Like some. You guys know, I know I'm quite.
Conventions were kind of viewed by their host hotels and their host cities as, what is this stuff? Some folk got together, they called themselves the Burned Furs, having been burned by this image that was being projected.
The Burn Furs were out to clean up the fandom, get rid of all of that sex-related stuff.
Now, I kind of agreed in principle with that concept. We can have fun, but can we do it over there where people aren't looking?
And I thought, hey, this seems like a good idea. Clean up fandom, why not? But it was to the extreme.
I have seen this fandom degenerate from
There's
a very
definitely
nice.
a huge thing regarding sexual content. And it's cool that people are trying to appeal to the mainstream audiences by like trying to not have that side show, which is cool, more accessible. But there's definitely a dilemma versus people freely expressing themselves and how and when versus wanting the fandom to grow in the mainstream. Interesting dilemma.
Into a endless parade of human debris. Thank you very much, Clay. This is liberal.
The Burned Furs felt that there were people in fur fandom that they did not like who should be somehow pushed out of the fandom.
Particularly people who, like Rodney and I, were gay or bi, and demonstratively so at conventions, hanging out with their boyfriend, cuddling on the couch or something. What if an underage person sees that?
So this group wanted to do something about it, and they had a manifesto of cleaning up the fandom.
No one was complaining when all of the art was female pinups. Heterosexual couples, it was okay.
Ultimately, the pushback against porn and adult content in furry is an attempt to push LGBT furs out of furry.
Somehow, Mark and I were at fault for the appearance of LGBT people in among furry fandom, which, if we wanted to, we wouldn't have known how. Furry fandom has attracted every stripe of the political spectrum. Although we could all sit around and discuss Donald Duck, if we got into talking about whether or not there should be gay marriage allowed, there would be bottles being thrown.
Yeah, there's a track of huge.
It's interesting how this entire thing got sidetracked. Essentially got completely sidetracked.
The current alt-right problem in furry fandom is the current alt-right problem in the United States, which is the current alt-right problem in Western civilization.
You are seeing more politics than you've ever seen before get in. I think once you got the Trump administration in, you saw a lot of furries become much more politically active. And that's made it more difficult for convention organizers to know what they should and shouldn't respond to.
We have a pocket of individuals here intertwining with
the larger online community of the alt-right, entangled with people that represent a hate message towards marginalized individuals.
Different conventions have had politics taken down.
More topics there was in the fandom, I think, a few years ago. I think I remember this. I think I was here for this.
For the furry community, that's pretty bad, because a lot of us are LGBTIA. I don't think that I would have been the person that I am today if I didn't have FurryCon.
For real.
No doubt.
Okay. Thank you for this year. Thank you for everything up to this year, and we'll see you tomorrow. We'll see you next year. And good evening.
Well, early on, I had encountered people who said, I came to the convention and I walked into the lobby and I felt, I'm home. I'm finally home.
It's a place I feel I can express myself in ways that I feel like I really need, that I feel is hard to do anywhere else. That's very exciting.
They found their family. They found their people. They found their culture. And that aspect has not changed.
Once I'm committed to something, I don't want to let it go. I can't let it go until it dies. We've all grown as a community together, but we want to make sure that what we're doing now is what the community wants now. And I know if we lose these conventions, we'll lose a lot of our community.
We have younger people coming into the fandom, and they see how open everybody is, and they deserve that. They deserve the opportunity.
If anyone here is watching that, check my Rival stream, my voice sounds a little different in Rival stream. I have a, well, you know what, fuck it. I'm gonna talk about something else, but I'm not gonna get into that. I don't want to take away from the narrative and my thoughts and feelings about furry stuff right now. Okay, I was just writing down something. Some things about myself and other things where I'm learning, I'll reflect on one of them.
That we have or that we didn't have when we were younger.
We can create environments.
Kind of.
Lose the conventions, we'll lose a lot of our community.
I think it's about how people brought people together and how important it is.
We have younger people coming into the fandom, and they see how open everybody is, and they deserve that. They deserve the opportunities that we have or that we didn't have when we were younger.
We can create environments where people are safe, where we don't overreact, where we're not dramatic, and just try to be in the best interest of our attendees overall and let them have the environment they can to be who they want to be.
A lot of the negativity comes from these big voices online, and when you take it into perspective, there's 1,000 other people that are having a good time. I couldn't let it go. I would feel so guilty.
That's the one.
I think this year went really well. 2,700 attendees. We raised $15,000 for charity.
For Denver, we have Freedom Service Dog, where last year we raised $15,000 so they can have an awning for the dogs when they go outside so it didn't burn their paw pads when they're going from the indoor training facilities to the outdoor kennels.
We raise as much money as we can for the charity we
Feels
choose.
smart.
We've tried to pick them locally.
I feel like it's hard to like remember to like cover my mouth and shit like that when I'm not actually talking to
For
someone.
the charity we choose. We've tried to pick them locally, and they're usually animal related.
I really feel like I owe a lot to the community just because it's taught me so much. It's made me become much more of an open and understanding person.
And we are, I think, outgrowing those stereotypes. I think we're becoming appreciated for ourselves.
Artists are really like the backbone of so much of what happens because that's how we're representing these characters at all.
I remember at the first few conventions, no, nobody's ever going to make a living off of doing this. You're crazy to think that. And here we are today, and there's probably hundreds of artists making some or all of
Yeah, for real, there's a lot of artists. All they do is like do furry shit. A lot of times it's just furry porn. And that little category, and they get a lot of money off that. Sometimes they just do fursuits or make furry music. I don't even know what furry music even sounds like. But, you know, furry stories, writing, a lot of it feels furry, and you into this stuff, you can definitely get
their living off of this.
I think the fandom's made my life better.
I probably wouldn't even have a quarter of the life that I do now.
I'd have a different career. I don't know if I'd be happy.
I'd be just a nobody in a crowd.
I would never have met my husband. I would never have met my best friends.
Every single one of my closest friends is a furry.
Just thinking about not having that experience is hard. Not having that, I don't know what I do.
I don't really want to think about because it seems like it would be a very, very dark road to go down.
Feel that. That's the dumb one.
We have our typical stories we tell about the fandom.
What is furry fandom? Oh, it's a bunch of guys who like sitting around throwing.
And a lot of the films were really popular.
That was the first convention.
Our fandom is based on a concept, and that concept isn't going away.
I go around to conventions, and I look at the fursuit parade, I look at the dances, I look at the dealers' rooms and how big they've gotten, and I'll admit it, I sometimes will walk around kind of and going, yeah, I was involved with starting this,
Yeah.
You know, we're still in it, and we're probably not going to get out of it. I don't intend to ever get out of it.
Throughout the whole documentary, because I feel like it represents how little the fandom started and then how much it grew, and those humble beginnings in proportion to like how it is now. I think that's a cool narrative.
I think the fandom is something I'm the most proud of in my life.
when people are having fun at a convention, at a meetup, online, or just two people who never would have met one another who discover a mutual love of furry and they get married.
I need to marry a furry dude. I feel much more like I belong with other furries than Rivals. I mean, no, that's not true because I feel like I belong with Rivals as much as furry shit does. For different reasons, you know. I feel like the furries is where I feel I can express myself more freely. And in Rivals, I feel like it's my medium for me to, like, become somebody, I feel. The Rivals part is like the pride-seeking, confidence-seeking part of me. And the furry part is the letting myself take a load off part of me. Like expressing myself freely part of me. Two different, very different desires that don't have much overlap. you can try to have overlaps because Browse is a furry game, but yeah. Well, shit, that's literally it. Dang, what was the last one? Well, I guess I can. I'm gonna let the credits play, so, you know, you guys, it's you who made this stuff, you know, they deserve, what the fuck, attention. Who made Surfing Me? Was it not Sam Conway? Really? Who made Surfing Me? Was it not that guy? Alright, well. Yeah, I really think this document was exactly what I was hoping it to be. It touched on a lot of different, yeah, all kinds of topics. I'm happy in that regard. I think it was kind of vague and broad and just brought up the narratives and just dropped them completely, but I'm not going to be too picky because this documentary did a lot. It helped me. It's crazy. It's such a crazy thing to have a documentary about something I already know is like a top 2 thing I love most in life. And it's Rivals of Aether and furry stuff in some order. And they remind me every single little thing I love about it and why it makes me think of why it's important to me and what I can get out of it and what I need to make. I need to make this part of me become something sustainable financially and like emotionally, I guess. I really want it to turn into something for the better. It's a huge passion and I don't see myself getting the most out of life without it. I guess that's the concise way to put all my feelings. It just gives me urgency to pursue furry stuff or art or something. Expressing myself freely or helping other people express themselves freely. This is my favorite medium for that. But yeah, in general. And it's another first like it's a fucking joke, but I'm not gonna drink it because I don't want it to get of like wake up somebody. I need to wake up at like 6 a.m. tomorrow. I need to pack up shit and I'm like only like a third of the way done packing when I leave at 6 a.m. tomorrow. You know, I was like, I really need to play Rivals. I really need to watch this documentary. I don't think I'm gonna be happy today. I don't think I'm gonna be happy before I leave my home for like a month until I do those 2 things. And I did. And I definitely stood up way later than I would have wanted to. Just for watching, thanks guys for spending time with me. I don't want to skip the credits because these people are important. I'm just gonna make it go quicker. Dude, do I recognize any of these people? I feel like I'm sure I did. I'm sure I do. I can't read. Thanks guys for spending time with me, and even though it's late, I know you guys could have just watched the documentary yourselves, but I'm very excited you guys would spend some time with me. And that's it. Yep. Not it. I'm just crazy. What is that? And anyone that's not a furry, I hope you enjoyed the documentary and learned something about the fandom, and have an appreciation for it I did before, maybe misconceptions I was taking care of. Maybe you guys see me differently for the better. I hope. I think that's literally it. Like dead ass. Like, yeah. True. Yeah. I feel like I said everything I wanted to say. Let me take a I just really think I should I want to pursue this part of me. I want to, yeah, I want the furry side of me to grow into something that's a huge part of my identity. I want it to stay that way. And I want it to grow into something, like I said, sustainable financially, or I think it's a super huge hobby or a super huge passion, as it, like, I think it would do so much good of my life. It would take care of so many urgent needs to express myself and then be myself. Unlike anything else in the world, and I think I can see myself being furry forever, and I did that to be. I expect myself to love esports forever. I don't see myself to be a competitor forever. You know, it's different. But yeah, I really want to pursue this outlet to express myself and to be myself, and I really feel that urgency to, and I'm happy that I have the medium for that. I just really need to pursue it and get rid of any inhibitions or self-confidence. See what I can do with it for my career. I think it's a part of me that I think needs to define my friendships and community more for the better. Hope you guys like watching me. Thanks for spending so much time with me. Even if you're not furry, especially if you're not furry. Hope you liked it. Hope you liked Spider-Man. Hope you liked the stream. Hope you like playing time with me and maybe see me differently for the better. I hope. Thanks for coming through. And even though it's really late shit, I'm sure you guys have like work or some shit. And the stream is very small. It's not usually quite this small though, but I'm happy I can build a community. Thanks guys.